was shocking, and it was awesome, as predicted by the Pentagon.
I feel very sad that our country is known for the brilliance of our weaponry rather than the brilliance of our brains and minds being put to peaceful resolutions when people are in conflict.
I see no justification for this war. I never thought my country would ever initiate a war.
Dissent is a patriotic act, and we are dissenters. There's no question about that. We're opposed to what the government is doing.
I never thought that I or people of my generation would ever live to see our country engaged in this kind of nefarious, shameful enterprise.
The lies and deception perpetrated by the government to justify the war have proven to be blatantly false.
With our old white heads and people in wheelchairs and with walkers, they know we've been there. War isn't new to us. We've lived through it, each of us in our own way.
I get the feeling that maybe we're making a difference. You know, we can try.
Getting imminent, the war. I felt we had to do something. So I called a meeting, and I expected about 10, maybe 6 people to come. And we got 27. We got 27 people, and I was stunned. I said, well, I didn't expect this many. There was standing room only. And they had 42 ideas about what to do. And that's how it started. And now we have 150.
We call ourselves Seniors for Peace, and I am so fortunate that I could find a like-minded group here at the Redwoods who are so passionately devoted to anti-war movement, and not just as people out waving our little flags and placards, but deeply, deeply concerned and involved in trying to find peaceable ways to end this disaster.
We have to overcome the hatred by compassion in our building schools and hospitals, and you do it by teaching and education, not by war. It's such an uplifting experience to come out week after week and see my friends in wheelchairs and walkers. Some of them I know are really fighting tough disorders, and yet we're always here. We won't give up as long as breath remains.
The average age, I understand, is somewhere around 84 to 85. They stumble out there like I do because I've got a replacement knee here, guitar in hand, doing what I feel I want to do.
This community, I'm just so proud of them because I can't imagine a group of older people who are so on top of things and so willing to get involved and care so much about our community, our country, and they really do.
I am here because I believe any war is immoral. The government is talking about this being such a moral country, and yet what we were doing, trying to attack another country, I think is absolutely immoral. In opposition to everything this country was founded on, and I'm doing what I can in my 87 years, and I'm very proud of the Redwoods and all that they are doing here. And we'll be out every Friday, regardless.
Peace is patriotic. Peace is patriotic. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, peace is patriotic. I'm gonna let it shine. Peace is patriotic. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine.
When we wave our American flags at our demonstrations, we are the patriots that say American democracy stands for real freedom of press and of speech.
Patriotism, in my view, is love of one's country and what is best for the country and basically its inhabitants. I love this country. This war has not changed my feelings about the United States.
I am here because I truly want to support this effort of peace in the world, and I think I have a right to because I was in World War II. I went through 5 battles in Europe, got wounded in Normandy, was awarded the Bronze Star, and I finally wound up the war meeting the Russians in Czechoslovakia. That, I think, gives me real purpose to being out here on this peace march, because I've been through it. I've been through it, friends, and George Bush ain't been through it. I found a home here. It's a wonderful group of people. This exemplifies the spirit of these people here.
Most of them, of course, have been through other wars. In some instances, know about the horrors of war.
It was unbelievable to me, and especially because the Germans were our neighbors. The hobnailed boots, bang, bang, bang on our cobblestones. I still cannot forget that noise. But the worst was bombing the heart out of Rotterdam. It started at 4 a.m. in the morning. The Stukas flew over our house very low on their way to bomb our airfield. The whole house shook, and we thought, this is really the end. I can't describe it. You don't expect to live.
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict, commenced at a time of our choosing.
I still had heart that we as a people, united with all the demonstrators all around the world, would stop this war. Then 6-inch letters, war. Baghdad blasted, Baghdad on fire. It was so heartbreaking that I felt I had a piece of lead in the middle of me.
The fact that war really occurred against every wish made us all very sad. As you can see, our line is much more somber. It's really a tragic situation.
The first Friday, 2 days afterwards, it was sort of a pensive time and feeling of pain and anguish, and there was nothing to, to sing cheerful songs about, and be elated. Iraq was being torn to pieces, and men and women were being killed. And all human life is, for me, is precious.
Underneath that rubble are people, our people's homes, our hospitals, our schools. And that is the hidden horror that we don't hear so much about.
We need to humanize the reality of this terrible conflict. When they say today that there's a massive bombardment, what that means is that in a country in which 50% of the people are 15 or younger, what we're really doing is murdering children. We can't give up the plea for sanity.
The basic reason that I joined with the demonstrators was that I believed in this particular instance that war is not the answer. We've killed hundreds of innocent people in the name of liberation, and we've exposed our own men and women, soldiers, to killing for no good reason. Once you have been in a battle situation and you've killed people and you've seen people be killed, you are forever changed. Your psyche is always affected by it.
My real awakening to the stance that I now have about war and about social concerns grew out of World War II, when I joined the American Red Cross and I was sent on a troop ship to England. It was then that I was really initiated, into what it was like to be in bombings and really knowing the feeling of GIs who were sent both to guard England and who would be in the invasion of Normandy. But one of the heartbreaking things to me was to learn to know these young men and to sew oak leaf clusters on their shoulders, know them by name. Then they'd leave, and the next crew that would be coming in, I'd say, well, how is so-and-so? Well, he was shot down. So I began to see that war was really about killing. It was taking young men away. Bombing and war and the destruction of young lives really turned me around.
So in 1940, I was inducted into the army, and I saw much of the Battle of Britain over London, the Air Force and the Luftwaffe fighting it out. On one occasion, I know I was horrified to find that about 25 people that had been sheltering in the basement of a building had been blown apart by a bomb. My horror of war was pretty immediate once I saw what happened in battle, and my friends that I've been training with for a couple of years blown apart, and it is something that never really leaves you. My wife used to tell me that I used to wake up in the night shouting after World War II. I hate to see 19-year-old young men and women in that situation.
Saddam Hussein was a vicious, evil monster, and his sons were no better than he was, and there were horrible, horrible things that were done to the citizenship of Iraq. Him being out of office and his sons being gone is a good thing. But the cost of doing that has absolutely been enormous and absolutely appalling.
What happens in war and violence is displaced populations, refugees on the road, starved and thirsty people who are separated from families, many whom have been killed. So that when I'm out demonstrating, I'm thinking about the tragedy that this rush to war has created in Iraq, and the fact that United Nations, which was formed to bring countries together to find peaceable solutions, has been completely sidetracked and debunked. We've got to find another way to resolve our differences than killing one another and pillaging each other's countries.
I'm afraid of the aftermath. I have the feeling that all the Arabs and all the Muslims all over the world will be very, very angry and very hurt, and I don't know, humiliated.
One of the main fears that I have is that terrorism will increase because of the fact that there will be even more hatred of the United States and Britain, for that matter.
It's very scary to me, and the worst part is we lost our credibility. We opened the Pandora's box. We have really messed it up.
There will be some jubilation, but there will be continued bitterness because of the immense American aggression. I don't think there has been a time where so much super weaponry has been rained down on a population. I feel that we will have a terrible, terrible challenge to try to rebuild an image of the United States as a peace-loving nation.
They've been protests all over the world. So maybe people wake up and will not make war anymore. I think this war shook up the whole world. The whole world was against it, so why do we do it?
The right wing has taken over. The military-industrial complex has a heavy hand in running the country and running the government, and I think that's pretty bad. I'm hoping that we'll be able to change that a little.
The United States and our allies are authorized to use force in ridding Iraq of weapons of mass destruction. This is not a question of authority. It is a question of will.
Was the war necessary? The connection between Al-Qaeda and Iraq, a complete fabrication. It just is not true. And no weapons of mass destruction have been discovered. It was lies and deception, duplicity that got us into this thing in the first place.
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
After that pose of President Bush on the carrier, announcing that this was now the end of the conflict, Americans have died every day.
We have great concern for the American troops in Iraq who are dealing with a situation that they obviously never dreamed they would have. I believe they were led to understand that they would be greeted as saviors, as liberators, and this, of course, turned out not to be the case.
The aftermath of this thing and the murder of Iraqi citizens and the continuing killing of American soldiers over there tells me that maybe we have made a horrendous mistake in doing what we've done.
But rather than just being completely paralyzed by this, it has really ignited a new concern to do something about the lies and deceptions that this particular government has enacted that has hidden real motive for taking us unilaterally into an ugly war.
It took years of public outrage before we could bring an end to the Vietnamese conflict. And I think we have to do the same thing here. We have to keep building, keep gnawing away at those people that have power, letting them know that we are outraged about the manipulation of this country's fine citizens.
The Constitution is being twisted and turned. I think everyone feels anger and resentment that this is happening in our country. And most of us, since we're older, we realize that we always thought this could never happen here.
Bush has had a heck of a lot of support, and we've got a lot of work to do to turn this whole idea of preemptive war and that Saddam Hussein was somehow connected with Al-Qaeda and the weapons of mass destruction and all these things that apparently have won over the majority of the voters in this country. And we've got to change that. We've got to concentrate on what do we do now.
This is our focus. How can we be part of bringing these lies and deceptions to public reckoning?
To educate the American public by outreach, by talking to them, by suggesting that if they feel outraged about it, and they obviously should, they should get in touch with their congressional representatives.
And then we're going to take whatever action the group feels is appropriate. Letters, postcards, and probably another petition.
The Seniors for Peace are just energized beyond belief. I just feel a whole new focus to my life.
They feel, gee whiz, I'm able to do something tangible. I'm able to get out and tell people, hey, take notice, wake up. And I think it's a wonderful feeling, particularly for older people.
It's amazing. I think it brings more vitality to a lot of people who are shut in and can get out here and can do something, you know, at least stand up and say, here's what I believe.
Now I suddenly feel very vital because I think I have things to say, I have things to share, and maybe someone hears me. maybe we can do something for the future generations.
It isn't for us, it's for the ones coming up. I just had a great-granddaughter in April. I'm doing it for her as much as anything else.
Being part of the Seniors for Peace has been the most vitalizing activity I could have hoped for. It has given me the opportunity to carry through the ideals and the values that have guided my whole life. What's also wonderful is for us to feel that we're part of a worldwide movement, that people all over the world are doing what we're doing. And we have a moment of communication with them on Sundays when we have a candlelight vigil.
Around the world. We're gonna shake hands around the world. Down by the riverside. Yay! Down by the riverside. Down by the riverside. And shake hands around the world. Down by the riverside and study a war no more.
There were millions of people over the planet. It isn't just, you know, a small piece of the left. It's a real, true people's movement.
We are certainly not by ourselves here. There's people all over the United States. There's people all over the world that are doing this, that are opposed to this, and we keep growing.
The movement for peace is spread all over the world, and it's the first time in my life that I've heard so many demonstrations, so many people speaking out for peace.
It is just a wonderful experience to get this out to the people, that our efforts do make a difference.
My son told me that it means a lot to the community he lives here, that we protest there and keep being there. And when they honk, when I stand there and we fight it, I usually start crying. It's wonderful to get the support.
When they come around that corner honking their horns, we have connected, we have made a connection there. And I feel that it is a privilege to be out there every Friday and giving this gift to the community and beyond.
It's been a surprise that so many people honk and wave and obviously support us. That's been what's reaffirming. We're not alone, that none of us are alone, and that brings courage.
I think the older you get, the more you want peace, and the more courageous you get.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled and followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts. And all around me a voice was sounding,